Thank you for tuning in. Your Madison City Schools broadcast will begin momentarily. Thank you for tuning in. Your Madison City Schools broadcast will begin momentarily. Thank you for tuning in. Your Madison City Schools broadcast will begin momentarily. Thank you for tuning in. Your Madison City Schools broadcast will begin momentarily. Thank you for tuning in. Your Madison City Schools broadcast will begin momentarily. Thank you for tuning in. Your Madison City Schools broadcast will begin momentarily. Thank you for tuning in. Your Madison City Schools broadcast will begin momentarily. Thank you for tuning in. Your Madison City Schools broadcast will begin momentarily. Thank you for tuning in. Your Madison City Schools broadcast will begin momentarily. Thank you for tuning in. Your Madison City Schools broadcast will begin momentarily. Thank you for tuning in. Your Madison City Schools broadcast will begin momentarily. Thank you for tuning in. Your Madison City Schools broadcast will begin momentarily. Thank you for tuning in. Your Madison City Schools broadcast will begin momentarily.
I'd like to call the City of Madison Board of Education meeting for October 12th, 2021 to order. If we can rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please, Ms. King. Here.
Here.
Here. Here.
Here.
Thank you, Ms. King. Board, if you'll take a moment and review the agenda, we need a motion and a second of agenda approval.
So move.
Second.
A motion by Ms. Lessman and a second by Mr. Farrar. All those in favor of the agenda, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Agenda passes. Dr. Nichols, we're in presentations.
Mr. President, members of the board, we have a presentation from the Policy Committee.
Good afternoon, Dr. Nichols and board. I just would like to introduce our new policy members. We have our two board members, Mr. Ferrer and Ms. Lessman, who are our board members. And then also myself and our MEA rep, who is Ms. Fuller, Deborah Fuller. And then also two of our policy members are Mr. Terrell and Mr. Jones. Mr. Terrell is our assistant superintendent. Mr. Jones is our chief operating officer. Then we also have our Director of Special Education, Dr. Zinkel, and then the principal at Discovery Middle School, Ms. Stewart, Kathy Miller, who is our Assistant Principal at Midtown, and then Secondary Instructional Specialist, Sharon Powell. Dr. Donaldson, Carrie Donaldson, is our alternative school principal. And then we have three community representatives. The first one is Miss Valencia Montgomery. The second one is Mr. Jeshuan Molina Marrero. And then also our last one is Miss Terry Regensberger. And those are our members of our 21-22 policy committee. And then our meeting dates, we've had our first meeting. Our first meeting was on September 22nd. We met, we had quite a few members who are part of our policy. We had our regular members, and then we also had some representatives who were from the community as a part of our WebEx. We did WebEx as well as met here in the boardroom, so we did have some participation. And then we also will have 2 additional meetings. One will be on January 19th, and then another meeting that we will have on April 20th. And we will have those WebEx as well as have a meeting here, have a room here at central office for any public who would like to attend. Are there any questions that you have?
Board, any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dr. Giles.
Dr. Nichols, any other presentations?
No, sir, Mr. President.
All right. We will move into public comments. Now is the time for members of the public to speak if they wish and have registered with Ms. King. Each member will be given 3 minutes, and we just ask that you, there may be differing viewpoints of the community, and we just ask that you're respectful to all those that are speaking tonight. Ms. King?
Okay, the first person is Sarah Parker. Sarah Parker.
Where'd my pen go?
Okay, thank you, guys. Dr. Nichols and board members, I believe we can all agree we are tired of coming to board meetings about COVID-19. No one wants to be here to keep talking about masks and vaccines. I believe many of us know each other by now, or at the very least recognize each other. Why? Because we are all the same parents, grandparents, guardians, and residents fighting for the children in Madison City. We are not here fighting for ourselves, though. We have something in common. Even on an issue that divides us, we're fighting for freedom and our children. Dr. Nichols, board members, when I look at your faces, I don't see anything but annoyance, anger, frustration, disgust, and fear, though. There is no fight, no leadership, no courage, and there is no evidence that we can trust you with our children. Another reason we are here united, even though we disagree, is because all of you are not doing your job. From day one, you have let fear control every decision. We have full-time jobs, yet we work part-time fighting the unending battle of COVID in our schools. We are tired and we have lost hope in our leaders. Therefore, I challenge you to a public forum. If you are not afraid of the decisions you have made through COVID, you will accept this challenge to answer questions and have conversations with both sides, to give explanations for your decisions. Students, parents, and Madison residents pay taxes, and we deserve your answers. I bring up the forum because I question your abilities to lead our great schools. You are all accountable to someone. Ultimately, that is the parents. But for the time being, we will talk to the City Council about your qualifications for leading our school system and continued leadership. Even at the city level, the mayor did not mandate masks. We can go into government buildings and city businesses without masks, yet you continue to mandate masks for our children inside the schools. More than anything else, you have harmed our children. I find it absolutely extraordinary that we have a superintendent and board who put themselves first before our children. Your actions and words tell a generation of kids that it is okay to lie, to be antisocial, And if you threaten them with punishment for disobeying fake mandates that even you disobey, you teach them to be a generation of lawless, ineffective, antisocial, cruel individuals. I hope you will take the challenge to tell us you are not any of these things. Defend yourself and have the courage we have not seen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I spoke last time, and, of course, we continue to be concerned about the people who voted against going mask optional. So here we go. Of course, I think it's evident to all of us that what's happening in the city of Madison is much different than what's happening in schools. And there's a basis for that, which is very interesting, but truth will reveal itself eventually. So I've been involved in what's happening in Madison schools. Many of you realize now that families here in Madison can choose to wear their mask in many places, from stores, sports games, gyms, restaurants, except in our schools. If you don't find that a bit odd, being BOE members, I'd love to hear, and understand what's going on there. So the teachers, staff, and families have no choice, right? The schools want a choice, and they can't speak out from fear of being reprimanded. I've said this in my last meeting. Of course, there's particular individuals and families that choose to wear a mask, as I'm sure you noticed at our open house, for example, which is completely fine. Our open houses were a hit, but not without complaints, I might add. There's even complaints about kids praying in our schools. Furthermore, there's also peer pressure and bullying happen due to wearing a mask below the nose, not correctly, or just simply for taking a break from the mask. The mental health effects of the mask and the hypocrisy is real, and I can't help but to say that you guys are to blame. Your integrity is questionable. It's just out in the open. You guys see it, and you guys are in control of our children as leaders. So I just don't want you to forget that you're replaceable. We're not going to give up a fight, because even though we're working full-time job, this is deeply concerning, and I believe some of you on the board do understand that. So I'm not sure what's happening with the way you think on all this. So although some choose to ignore it and argue against it about mental health and the hypocrisy, there's families that are walking in truth. There's a reason behind having a choice. It's not because those families don't care about others. It's because they see what's happening within their own families. I respect everything that encourages freedom. That's even families that choose to wear a mask, choose to vaccinate their kids. What's important is that you must realize some people simply don't care about what we think is best for our families or our children. And I'm assuming if you had a kid in school, you'd be there too, I would hope. Anyway, that's the truth. I'm simply telling the truth, hence my involvement with all this. Of course, on the next agenda is to push families to vaccinate their kids. I've spoken to the adults that are very much in control versus choice. Basically, our freedoms are limited, they say. And you should know that they can continue that way if you don't start speaking up and holding yourselves accountable. In summary, I encourage you to help join in this fight of freedom versus a controlling agenda. Otherwise, things could get worse and continue. And then, more importantly, legally. I hate to say that, but the fight is just not going to end unless you hold yourselves accountable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Davis. I have two kids here in Madison City Schools. I'm here tonight to speak out about the mask mandate. One question I have particularly is on Madison City website and Limestone County website, they have the list of student population. Madison City at 12,200 and Limestone County at 12,751. Assuming these numbers are accurate and correct, we could assume that the school districts are fairly comparable. Limestone County started their schools with mask preferred, and they have yet to close or shut down due to a mass COVID outbreak. Why are we acting like masks are preventing a mass spread when our neighbors are showing us that it's not. In addition, a lot of times it seems as though it's referred to the ADPH, which also refers to the CDC. That's where they get a lot of their information. On the CDC website, it states that you should wear a mask in public places. And further down, it states wearing a mask is required on public transportation. Notice should was changed to required. The word should is defined as indicating a desirable state, where the word required is defined as essential. Therefore, using the CDC as an aid just simply doesn't work. It does not state that masks are essential or required in public places, but only desired. In conclusion, you can get facts from this website and that website stating your own side of this whole debacle. But the freedom, what it all boils down to is freedom of choice. It's freedom to mask or unmask, the freedom to vaccinate or unvaccinate. But that should be a choice, and that's one choice that should not be forced upon on anybody. So please stop forcing the mask mandate when there isn't sufficient enough data to honestly support your argument to place a mandate. This whole debate would not be happening if this pandemic wouldn't be on, because it's all political. And I feel as though our children are just pawns in this great debate. School boards are hired to stay up to date on the latest educational outbreak, more of education and bringing that over forcing a medical device on our kids. I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
How are you?
Good.
Good? Yes, sir. I like to hear. Hi, thank you, Board of Directors and Dr. Nichols for allowing me to speak at this meeting. My name is Luis Mendoza, and our family has 3 kids in the Madison City School District, 2 in Heritage Elementary and 1 in Liberty Middle School. I'm originally from Mexico City and was raised in San Diego, California my whole life. My wife and I relocated from San Diego, California last year due to the lack of leadership in our local and state level government officials. We chose Madison because the school district was similar to Del Mar Unified School District, which is a 10 out of 10 in California. So to my point I want to make, I've served at a local and national level as board of directors. I know pretty well what happens behind closed doors and protocols of the board of directors. Right now, based on my observations, I'm noticing that this board is not making unbiased decisions based upon what's better for our students and parents that you currently represent. For example, Mr. Nichols, I would like to thank you for your service and job during these difficult times. I would also like to thank Mr. Halsey and Mr. Nichols for reviewing my video email regarding the reversal of the mask mandate that I sent on September 21st. In that video, it raised my concerns regarding the school's actions of segregating my children that were unmasked. That email contains technology that allows me to see how many times the video was opened and viewed. Sadly enough, only 2 out of 6 people reviewed my concerns. The last meeting caused more concern with the board of directors' actions because, in fact, no anti-masker was allowed to sit in the boardroom at 5 p.m. My wife showed up an hour early to be able to attend the public comments part of the meeting, in which no anti-masker was allowed in because they were told they were at capacity. So help me understand this. How did 9 pro-maskers found a seat in the board meeting and were allowed to speak last time? What troubles me is the hypocrisy, the inconsistency of our current actions. Everyone is seeing at college footballs right now, full students rushing the fields, Texas A&M and Alabama. Baseball playoffs packed house, and our high school games shoulder to shoulder, yelling and screaming next to each other. From my experience, the most disturbing is some of the kids whose parents choose their kids to be masked at school are also playing sports in the community like baseball, football, gymnastics, touching the bars, dirty floors, and not wearing a mask in the gym. So yet in school, they're socially distancing and wearing masks. Mr. Nichols, thank you for presenting the proxy last meeting, and Mr. Halsey, thank you for your vote. In conclusion, the Board of Directors was appointed by the City Council and signed to represent the people and specifically the children. We, as parents are concerned, have tried to work with the school board but don't seem to be making progress. Dr. Nichols came up with a logical plan since 4 of you voted down what in turn is your recommended solution right now. This is so kids don't wear the mask indefinitely. When will the numbers be low enough? Thank you for your time. Thank you for your service.
Thank you to our Madison City Police here this evening. Good evening, Dr. Nichols and School Board. My name is Dave Smith, Madison City parent. I speak today to address Madison City Schools' mask mandate with no end date. Err on the side of caution, the board said in the September 30th meeting. Minors aren't dying from COVID. They aren't dying from lightning strikes either, but should we mandate rubber suits to err on the side of caution? For a less absurd example, how many adults here had a rough social year or 3 in their own schooling? Now, throw a nearly 2-year and counting mask mandate into that mix with no end date and no end criteria. How would that have helped your own rough years in school? Are we erring on the side of caution with respect to our students' mental health? We have the power and not a freedom issue, the board said in the September 30th meeting. In America, unlike every other country in the history of mankind, power flows from the consent of the governed, not the government. The governed, in turn, derive their rights from their creator, not their government. We do not consent to the mask mandate. Dr. Nichols, you admitted in the September 30th meeting that our mask mandate isn't producing results relative to neighboring school districts, as an earlier speaker pointed out. In any system, engineering or otherwise, wasted effort or friction produces overall inefficiency. Madison City demands excellence from its school system, not mandated inefficiency. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jovita Parnell.
Hi again. My name is Jovita Parnell. I have 3 kids in Madison City Schools. On September the 17th, you sent out a general email, which when you had to click on the link and then scroll down, and on paragraph 7, you said masks were optional. On Monday, you had someone come into the classroom and count how many maskless students there were. And then after counting the maskless students, you alerted the students of the change. Now, on Tuesday, the word was out, and you recanted the decision. But the recant was easily seen because you put in the subject, update on mask. So we read it. Now, for 2 days, my kids, they talked about the demeanor of the teachers. They were light, and they were happier. And the students were happier, and my kids were happy. But then, that's all taken away. Just like that. Now, parents, we come here and we give out data. Like you've heard plenty of data. You got plenty of facts. We send emails about everything that's going on. There are several counties throughout Alabama, to include Hoover, that has removed the mask mandates because they know they're pointless. They put the decision in the hands of the parents. Lifting the mask mandates does not change the fact that you can optionally let your child continue to wear a mask. And keeping the mask mandates does not free your child from being quarantined. So what's the point? You guys, you're not waiting to lift the mask mandates. You're waiting for us to get tired of coming here. And I think you've heard the parents. They are tired. We are tired of coming here. And I'm tired of seeing all of you. These are unpaid volunteers, which we do appreciate that you've come here and you care enough to spend 5 terms. But every April and May, your positions are up for grabs, pretty much. And we need new people. We need people who care about our children. And we don't feel like you're those people. Now, you are appointed by the city council, we get that. So I suggest the parents, we find new candidates, and then in February, March, April, we go down the second and fourth Monday of the month, and we get 3 minutes, just like here, to talk to the city council. And we're gonna let them know that we do not want you to be on the board anymore. We do not think that it's okay for you to make medical decisions for our kids. We don't think it's okay that you're hypocrites, because we've seen you maskless at meetings and different places without your mask. We do not want to be lied to or ignored and given the customer service link like, oh, we do apologize for the inconvenience. We know that you're upset, but you don't do anything. You don't leave us like with the power to make decisions for our children. So the time now is to do. We need to do, and we need you guys gone. I know you're new, but that's okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. My name is David Caldwell. I am have boarded in emergency medicine and family medicine and practiced 20 years in emergency medicine and 17 years in family medicine. I'm going to talk about masks and vaccines in children. I'm going to have to go fast. The efficacy of masks is very much in question. I've reviewed the data, and I think it's overwhelming that they are not effective. This is just a sampling of some of the data. CDC meta-analysis found no benefit with laboratory-confirmed influenza. JAMA 2019, 2,300 randomized healthcare workers, no benefit with even N95 and surgical masks. March 2020, evidence-based medicine, meta-analysis of 6 studies, no evidence of benefit of masks in influenza. Same with Cambridge meta-analysis, same with the Influenza Journal in 2011, and on and on and on. In December of 2020, I think you're aware that Georgia schools evaluated schools that wore masks and those that didn't, and there was no statistical difference. There was a slight benefit in the schools that wore masks as far as the incidence of COVID-19. But in 90,000 people, a non-statistically significant difference is not significant. So the efficacy is very much in question. What about the risks? A study, 6 children were given brand new masks, sent to school for 5 hours. Those masks were taken to the University of Florida for analysis, and half of those masks contained 1 or more strain of pneumonia-causing bacteria. 1/3 were contaminated with 1 or more strains of meningitis. There were 17 total different kinds of bacteria involved. And that's with brand new masks. Imagine children wearing the same mask day after day as most of them do. They're going to be breathing a cesspool of bacteria. German study, nationwide, 24 health complaints reported by parents and students, including irritability, headaches, difficulty concentrating, lack of enjoyment, impaired learning, etc. Within 3 minutes of wearing a mask, it has been found that carbon dioxide levels rise to 2 to 5 times the levels defined as safe by OSHA. Our children are in an unsafe environment and their oxygen levels are low. Dr. Marguerite Brisson, a neurologist and neuropsychologist, said when these levels drop, the symptoms are headaches, drowsiness, dizziness, issues concentrating, slow reaction time, the exact things those German kids had. The nerve cells, she said, in your brain are unable to divide in a hypoxic situation. And she said the lost nerve cells will never regenerate. What's gone is gone. That means my grandchildren will lose brain cells. Since there is no benefit from the mask and only harm, we must give parents a choice. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey again, this isn't a position I ever would have put myself in. But then again, who would have thought that I would have to fight for a basic right to make health risk decisions for my children and for my children to breathe fresh air? It's actually mind-boggling to me that you continue to pander to the spirit of fear in this city. This isn't just about a mask, but a very basic human right. And if we concede this battle now, our children and grandchildren will suffer the effects of it. This is not something I'm willing to stand idly by and watch. You know these meetings have always been about what Dr. Nichols says and what Dr. Nichols decides, and how at some point the other side is going to be unhappy. Every meeting that's been stated. And yet here we are, and it's the rest of you guys who decided not to follow your leader when he was going to stick to the decision to roll back the mandate. What happened to all the fawning and glowing statement of Dr. Nichols' ability of decision-making during his evaluation meeting? You couldn't praise him enough, and yet you aren't willing to support his decision now. Why is that? Who has you under their thumb that you won't choose to support your leader? Or is it that you're just all colluding to take some of the pressure off of him for a bit? I'm honestly not sure what I'm trusting. I don't trust what I see and hear from you guys anymore. And what about all the social media posts? I think everybody's kind of stated that. All of you at unmasked functions, dances, games, your children in events and unmasked situations. Your hypocrisy knows no bounds. You are so fearful of a child getting sick and of something that he or she will recover, nearly 99% recovery rate. How about you start worrying about the long-term effects of masking? You're not even considering those consequences. Are you willing to accept the consequences for you not doing that? Last week in Arkansas, a few parents got frustrated enough they filed a lawsuit against the school board, and guess who the judge sided with? Their masking mandate is now placed on hold. The suit claims that only the governor or the secretary of state has the right to issue a mandate, and that the school board was in fact in violation of parents' constitutional rights to care and control of their children. It is going to come to, is it going to come to that for you guys to wake up? Do we need to threaten a lawsuit? Because I get the impression you've already been threatened one from the other side. There is no basis for the continued mandate, and it's time for you to let go of the power that you willed and give it back to the parents. You never had the right to begin with. Get back to supporting our teachers. I hear they're dropping like flies. Support them in the classroom and make our schools great again. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ann.
Heather Morgan.
Good evening. I apologize for my appearance. I just drove into town. My fall break was a little longer. Oh gosh, I got an alarm going off. Sorry. I had to take myself in the hall because I couldn't stand to listen to some of this couldn't keep a straight face. But I actually been meaning to write y'all, and I didn't, so I just thought I would just come by and thank you in person, because I am seeing leadership. Of course, I'm happy with how you voted last week, but that's not what I want to thank you for. I want to thank you for asking questions. Ms. Lessman, you had a great question when you asked what else besides sanitizing. What are we going to do about airborne? Which is the problem, because it's airborne. You all had excellent questions. You thought about it, and that's what it's about. If you were not being good leaders, you would fall to the political pressure, even though you aren't elected. You are appointed. And I'm actually seeing now that I'm very glad that our school board is appointed and isn't elected, because it's not supposed to be political. And from what I tell everybody who comes up here, they're talking about political things. This is not political. It's not about control. You have to be able to tell the difference between, I want you to wear a mask and I want you to go in this camp. You know, I mean, there's a huge difference. There's a huge gap. And so thank you for sitting up here and listening to both sides of this issue and all the issues, and making informed choices, and not just going with who speaks the loudest, because this isn't a vote for a mascot or something like that. This is our children's health, and you spoke out specifically, Mr. Holcamp and Ms. Lessman, about the children who are under 12 who cannot get vaccinated. the mask is the only thing we can do right now to help mitigate that. You know, we can't distance by 6 feet. I don't know how good the air filtration is something. I don't know the logistics of how good they are in the schools or putting HEPA filters in, but thank you so much for just, you know, following the science and just using your good sense. Thank you.
Mr. Giles? Mr. Giles? I can't understand the first, read the first name. But the last name is Giles.
Come that way.
Mike Giles, probably.
Hello, I'm Declan Giles, and I'm a student at Liberty Middle School. I'm here to talk about the mask mandate. Masks are the worst. They make it hard to hear one another, they make it hard to breathe, and they're uncomfortable. I use a mesh mask at school so I can help others hear me and breathe easier, but almost every day I face mocking from kids saying that my mask is fake or doesn't work, and a friend of mine also wears a mesh mask, and he also faces mocking. Also, on the 3rd week of school, a teacher took me to the office because of my mesh mask, telling me the mandate changed a little bit and gave me a real mask, but she wasn't allowed to do so. The Declaration of Independence says, we have certain unalienable rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and I don't feel happy about this. So look at it from a student's point of view. Goodbye.
Thank you, Declan. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ainsley Giles, and I am a student at Heritage Elementary. People make fun of me and about my mesh mask at school. In the Declaration of Independence, it clearly states life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And for some people, wearing masks makes them feel bad for themselves and for their kids and for other people. And we don't want to wear a mask in store, school, and work. But you make us, but we don't want to. Oh, and guess what? I went to a store today and I saw a friend and at their school they don't have to wear a mask, and that is not fair for other people. We should not be able to wear a mask because people want to be happy, but this does not make people happy. And I hope you want people to be happy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ainsley.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Carrie Giles. I've got a student at Liberty, Declan, and a student at Heritage, Ainsley. Thank you for being here this evening. Thank you for taking public comments. I'm happy to be here again to share our feelings about this topic. There has been a lot of wonderful information shared tonight. You guys are very knowledgeable about the rates between different school districts with different guidelines. I'm not going to reiterate that point. One thing that I will bring up is that we need to think about, and leaders in general have to make decisions based on risk assessment. You have to do that all the time. And we have to do that in our own personal lives, and you guys do that. We appreciate the volunteers that are here on the board making those risk assessments. there are risks that we agree to every day. We have a wonderful transportation department and we have buses that drive kids around, and there are not seatbelts on the majority of those buses. And there's a risk associated with that, but we've made the decision and we've weighed the risks and benefits about providing transportation to school and accepted a small risk. We have playground equipment at most of the elementary schools and athletic facilities. So there's risks associated with playing on playground equipment. It happens, but it's an accepted risk that you include in the school grounds and the school opportunity. Now, if there's parents who say, I do not want my child to ride a school bus, I feel like that's not safe, they have the choice to opt out of that. It's not mandated that you have to ride a school bus to school. And you respect their choices as parents to make those decisions and allow their children to still come to school. If children or parents have decided not to play on certain playground equipment, you respect their autonomy in doing that, but you don't take away that right and that opportunity from everybody else because some people may object to it. I think one thing that has been missed in a lot of these discussions is talking about not what are the hypothetical losses, like projections say, or the studies show this could happen, this could happen. What are the real losses in this district? How many staff members that are wonderful have left and are not coming back? How many families that are wonderful contributing members of the school district and community have left and are not coming back? Those are the things that make this school district great. We can have great superintendents, we can have wonderful volunteers on the board, but it is the families and the educators in this district that make it great. And you are driving them away. I get messages and emails from teachers all the time. I'm going to read to you some of the comments from them. We are at the end of our rope. We can't say anything or we'll be fired. Please speak up for us. We can't keep doing this. This is the worst year in 30 years of education. We find out about things after parents do. We don't even know how to respond to these upset parents. Please help me find a job elsewhere because I can't keep doing this. These are women that are national board certified, whose names are on your wall in the lobby that you brag on, and they are begging parents to stand up for them. Make a policy. I call for you to vote tonight for a policy for parents to make the choice and for it to be a mask optional policy. Please do that.
Thank you.
Joseph Rizzo.
Good afternoon, Board. Last time I was here, I read you off some numbers straight from the CDC, National Center for Health Statistics. You can look these up yourself. The one I'm concentrating on is deaths by sex and ages. They even have the age groups here. 0 to 17 years old, since this all started, 499 deaths from COVID. That's sad. That's 499 children, 0 to 17, that died. That's in the whole country. In Alabama, that number is 0, unless it gets updated. That number was 0 as far as children deaths. So if we're here to protect the children, I think we're protecting the wrong people. If you're worried about them bringing it home to older people, and you believe the mask works, then that older grandparent can wear a mask, can get the vaccine. We're focusing on the wrong people, which is our children. Dr. Caldwell brought up pneumonia, which I'm glad he did. This is all on the same sheet. Children that died of pneumonia since all this started, 1,010. That's double. I don't hear anybody here talking about pneumonia or scared of their children getting pneumonia, but yet it's in the mask that they're breathing in, according to studies. Also, same list here, all deaths since this started, all kids total. 58,167 from all other causes. It doesn't list them. I'm sure it's plenty of different causes, car accidents, what have you, home accidents. It looks like the focus is in the wrong place. There's obviously kids dying from a lot of other things, and this is very minute considered. And I understand that could be my kid. I believe in God, so I'll deal with that if it ever happens. At the beginning of today, we all said the Pledge of Allegiance, one nation under God, indivisible. Doesn't mean we can't have different points of views. That means we're still one nation, regardless. And everybody in here stood up, from what I saw, masked, unmasked people. For liberty and justice for all. That's for everybody. That's not for the new normal. That's for the normal that we know of, that people like me fought for in the military. That's what that means. So, and we're for choice. If they want to wear a mask, their kid wear a mask, so be it. But we need to go back to what we know and what this country is founded on, which is liberty and justice for all. Not change most everybody for a select few people. If they feel comfortable with the mask, their kid with the mask, or giving their kid the vaccine, then so be it. Just remember that next time you stand up and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
She's coming.
Good evening, Dr. Nichols and school board members. I'm here because I am supporting to end the mask mandate. I wasn't at the last school board meeting. I understand that only one school board member voted for the matrix, which I'm going to go on the record here and say, I don't even like the matrix. Just let parents have a choice, okay? And I've heard people talk about hypocrisy, and I'm going to focus on that because there's people who are serving breakfast and who are going to Auburn football games and who are going to their daughter's little events at her schools in Birmingham, and they're with crowds of people. They don't even have a mask on. And some people have kids that are the same age and the same grade as some of our kids, but their kids don't have a mask on. So they're going out in public, going all over the place, and being with people that you don't know, and then coming back to school. But they got this little mask on that's supposed to protect them. And we heard from the doctor who said it's not really a good thing. We heard from a doctor on Sunday at our Freedom Rally about how these masks don't work and how the vaccinations are just ridiculous. One doctor basically broke down and cried because he was talking about immunity systems. We don't need mask and hand sanitizer. Kids need dirt. They need an immune system. We need to continue to make our immune system good. This is absolutely ridiculous of the way this is going. The attorney that I have spoken with said that we needed to wait until certain cases were settled in the United States. The precedence is set. The precedence has been set in Florida and in Arkansas. And it is unconstitutional for you to mandate to me that my child has to wear a mask at school. And I talked to the lawyer on Sunday, and I said, is this what we're waiting for? He said, yes. So I'm here to tell you, my husband agrees with me. This is ridiculous. And we are ready for that step. And if you're ready for that step too, then bring it, because I'm tired of it. And I know that there's a ton of people here. There were hundreds of people at the Furniture Factory on Sunday. Hundreds of people who marched with us, who spent the day with us, who listened to speakers. I spoke. Because this is not what the United States is about. This is not what our founding fathers about. We are not supposed to live in fear. We are supposed to live united. But when we have government officials who are trying to make us fearful for our life because of something that's not going to kill you, maybe, but it might, but no different than what the guy that spoke just a while ago, telling you the CDC information straight from the website. More people have died from pneumonia than from COVID-19. What's wrong with y'all? You afraid of the other side suing you? Well, guess what? It's coming.
That ends our public comments for tonight, and we will move into business action items. Dr. Nichols?
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend for your approval a consent agenda that contains the items A, minutes number 21-23, September 30th, 2021, an amendment of the policies 4.1.2, accessory restrictions authorization, and 7.3.6, promotion and dual enrollment courses.
Board, the superintendent recommends approval of the consent agenda items that you have before you. Can I have a motion and a second?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Ferrer and a second by Ms. Lessman. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion passes. Dr. Nichols.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend for approval an owner-architect agreement with Nola Van Pearson Architects for the development of James Clemens High School baseball, softball indoor facility.
Board, the superintendent recommends approval of an owner-architect agreement with Noah Van Pearson and for the James Clemens High School baseball, softball indoor facility. Can I have a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
A motion by Mr. Halsey and a second by Mr. Cummings. Discussion?
Mr. President, members of the board, this is an owner-architect agreement for Mr. Nola to begin design and to look at the indoor facility at James Clemens. This is part of our 2021-2022 capital planning program, and the beginning stages of that is for him to take a look at that and give us a potential design to look at which time the board would come back and look at that for approval, and then move forward if the board decides with bidding and that type of process.
Questions, board? No questions. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Dr. Nichols, motion passes. Dr. Nichols.
Mr. President, members of the board, Ms. Williams will come at this time and present the financial and bank reconciliation statements for August 2021.
Good evening, Dr. Nichols and board. This is the financials for August 2021. We should currently be at around 92%. As far as our revenues, we are at 91.33%, and our expenditures are around 87%. We are also at 66.92 operating days.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend for your approval the August 2021 financial and bank reconciliation statements for Madison City Schools presented by Ms. Williams.
Board, the superintendent recommends approval of the August 2021 financial and bank reconciliation statements for Madison City Schools. Can I have a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
A motion by Mr. Halsey and a second by Mr. Cummings. Prior to the board meeting this evening, we had a financial committee meeting where all board members were present. We went through the numbers, but I'd invite our sitting board members on the finance committee, Mr. Halsey, Mr. Cummings, or anybody else to make any comments, ask any questions.
As you said, having had our finance committee meeting earlier today, I have no questions. Feel confident that Ms. Williams and her team are doing a good job of controlling and managing our financial expenditures and reporting to the board and the committee on revenues that are coming in. Those are going strong as we need them to be. So I was pleased with the report. No questions from the report.
And with this being August, that means next month will close out the year?
End of the year, yes, correct.
Anything further, board? No. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion passes. Dr. Nichols, we will move into personnel actions.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend for approval the supplemental contracts presented to you for the Madison City School System.
Board, the superintendent recommends approval of the supplemental contracts. Can we take those as a group?
Yes.
Yes.
Seeing that a group's fine, I will call for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Halsey and a second by Mr. Ferrer. Any discussion, board? Call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Contracts pass. Dr. Nichols?
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend for your approval list of substitutes for Madison City Schools. This will be an addition to previous lists that have been presented to the board at previous board meetings.
Board, Dr. Nichols has recommended the approval of the addition to the list of substitutes for Madison City Schools. Can I have a motion and a second?
So move.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Ferrer and a second by Ms. Lessman. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion passes. Dr. Nichols.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend for your approval of personnel actions as presented on the personnel agenda.
Board, the superintendent recommends the personnel actions that you have in front of you. Can these be taken as a group?
Yes, sir.
Seeing that a group's fine, can I have a motion and a second?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Ferrer and a second by Ms. Lessman. Any discussion, board? No discussion. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion passes. Dr. Nichols, are there special recognitions you'd like to make?
Well, yes, sir. I don't like recognizing it sometimes. On your agenda, we had 2 retirements that'll come effective at the middle of the year. One of those is Kim Stewart, the principal at Discovery. I thought I had talked Ms. Stewart out of retiring. She thought, well, we thought she was going to retire in the summer, but we convinced her not to. But she decided, she told me in the summer she probably thought she was going to retire at Christmas. And so she's been with us since she moved here from St. Louis in 1997, served 14 years at Discovery as a language arts teacher, then moved to Horizon Elementary School as assistant principal and back to Discovery as assistant principal, and then has served since 2017 as the principal. And Kim's an outstanding educator, a great member of our team. We sorely will miss her, and she has been a great contribution to the Discovery family. We also are going to have to find a principalship at Mill Creek, because Carmen Buchanan Tubb, who I also thought was going to retire this summer, but we talked her into coming back, but she also told me that probably sometime in the middle of the year she was going to retire. Carmen's been with us since '93 as a language arts teacher, social studies teacher at Liberty, and then an art and speech drama teacher at Liberty, and then instructional coach and assistant principal at James Clemens, and became the principal at Mill Creek in 2015, and she has done an outstanding job. Our team will post these 2 positions and do as we have in the past. I'll meet with PTA members and members of the faculty to look for those things that we will be looking for as we interview and post these positions. I always like to get that feedback from the PTA and our teacher groups at the school. And while we're sad to see them go, we know there's potential out there to look for someone, and so we will begin to do that starting tomorrow.
Thank you, Dr. Nichols. We will move into superintendent comments and then board comments.
Well, I'll be brief. First of all, thank parents that came out, students. I appreciate Declan and Ansley who came and spoke, and appreciate that. I always appreciate hearing from our students. We've a lot of activity going on. We had a great meeting with members Ed Castile of AIDT, and look forward to a partnership on a new career tech program for our district. AIDT trains the workforce across Alabama, and they are wanting to partner with us and give us a modular welding program. So that's a win for us, that our students won't have to travel to a nearby community college. It's not that far away, but it still interrupts their day. So our team is working on setting up meetings with parents. I've been in the state meetings with the State Department of Education yesterday and today. And so we'll continue to update you when those are finished and give you updates from Dr. Mackey and and those. We have homecoming this week at Bob Jones. Look forward to their festivities and those things that are going on. Our bands are competing and going to marching contests and dance teams and swim teams and dive teams, and we're getting ready for the volleyball regional competitions, and so just lots of activities, chess tournaments. Had a big chess tournament week before last, 2 weeks ago, and we'll have another one on Halloween at the stadium. So just lots of activities that are happening across the district. Appreciate our team for the work that they put in, and look forward to those other activities as they unfold this year.
Thank you, Dr. Nichols. Board comments? Ms. Lessman?
Thank you all for coming out, and the public comments, I'm going to go ahead and address that right away. I can see the frustration, and I can see your frustration. We're frustrated up here too. I'm speaking for me. I'm going to make the decision. I'm going to vote what I think is right in my heart. With these kids, from the last meeting when we spoke, they, especially 11 and under, there is no vaccine, and I'm not saying to get the vaccine or anything like that, but for the choice, and just hear me out, for the choice, I'm not sure that there's really a choice for them. Because when you're sitting in those rooms together, and like I said the last time, you know, when you're at a restaurant, you have that ability, you can leave. When you're at another public place, when you're outdoors, most of us are, if you can determine if you're healthy. And we're not making decisions for your child. I'm doing what I think is right for in the schools during just from 8 to 3 or whatever, you know, our school time is. Whatever you do outside of that, that is your business. But when we're trying to take, you know, 12,000 kids, that's what I'm looking at. And you know, if that's fallen on me or, you know, the board, which that was a lot for Dr. Nichols, for that to fall on just one person. We all have different opinions on it. As a mom, your kids are beautiful, and, you know, talking and saying that the masks don't make you happy. No, they don't make me happy either. And I don't know what the right answer is, but this is what, for the schools, this is what we are doing, and I'm hearing you. I do read your emails. We're watching the numbers, and we were at 11% today, actually. And actually, I got an email for the county that we went down from the extra high to the high. So I mean, it is going down. You know, and we appreciate your support, especially those that spoke very respectful. You know, we're torn up here. I know you're trying to do what's best for your child and your family, and we're trying to do what's best for the 12,000 kids and teachers and extended family. This is not a political thing for me, like, no. So I just want to, I want to put that out there. You can take it. I know it's your mind may be made up, or, you know, you can hear me out. You can't. I am listening to you, and right now that is where I feel is the best for the interest of all. And I do appreciate you guys coming out here. You two, that was big for you to come up and talk on the microphone and have that written out. That was really good. And then the doctor that I could tell that, I know it's hurting your heart to see that. And I'm, you know, we're doing the best we can. Can we please just come together as a team? This too shall pass.
Thank you. Remember,
I am not, and I don't want to like start talking, but so what, and that is where I feel that we have to listen to our public, our health officials that we have right now. And that's all I can say. I appreciate you coming out here. Thank you for coming. We're listening. Please, you know, like I said, this too shall pass. Thank you again.
Thank you, Ms. Lessman. Mr. Cummings?
No comment.
Thank you, Mr. Cummings. Mr. Holsey?
I'd like to thank all of our parents who came out to speak tonight, and especially our two students, Declan and Ansley. Thank you for coming out and making your voices heard. Like I've said many times, I think a great part of our structure is allowing people to speak their minds. So thank you for taking the time to come do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holsey. Mr. Frere?
Thank you for coming. Thank you for being sincere. We listen. Like Ms. Lessman said, we got 12,400 students. We got over 20 parents, 20,000 parents. We got a population of what, 30, 40,000. We got to make decisions based on what Mr. Cummings says. We got to do our due diligence. Do I believe masks work? No. Is it working whatever we have in place? Yes. Should I change it? No. Was the solution provided to us in time and vetted and discussed like we do business typically? No. Am I going to vote for something that it wasn't presented to everybody? No. So I always believe in clarity. I always believe in transparency. I think in regards to why I'm making that decision for you, because the governor made that decision, correct? Wrong. No? Wrong. Mr. How was this mandated all the way down to us?
It wasn't mandated. You made the mandate.
Yes, sir.
I don't want to necessarily get a
Yes, sir.
issue, and that's, all I can tell you is that we had ADPH guidance that said that universal masking should be continue in schools, and we haven't gotten any new guidance on that from the ADPH. It's guidance. There's not a legal
What I mean is
requirement to follow it.
the decision was flowed from the state down to the board to make a decision on the mask.
Right. We're not here to debate.
This is board comments, please.
Board comments have been concluded. The board comments are being made, but the public comments are a portion of the meeting are concluded. This is not a debate session. But if you're asking a question of me as your legal counsel, the advice I gave was that concerning masking is that we had guidance from the ADPH that universal masking should occur in schools. And if you choose to follow that guidance, then you would maintain masking. You're not legally required to do so. Other systems have chosen to go another route, but it's a choice for the board to make based on do you follow scientific guidance, the medical guidance, which is they're the folks who are supposed to be able to determine what's best from a medical standpoint. They do it when you have flu outbreaks in other years. They do it in all kind of other things. There have been other vaccine mandates in the past as well, although not for this vaccine. But you're here to educate kids. They're there to give medical guidance. You can follow that guidance or not, but you're making a choice if you don't that you know better than the medical professionals. And you can do that at some point when you think it's in the interest of the public and the interest of your students. You're not legally required to follow the guidance, but it's certainly something that's within your authority to do. And that's, as I understand it, that's what you did at the last meeting.
And that's what I'm asking you, how that authority was flown down to us as a board to make that decision? Was it by the state?
Well, you have the authority essentially to operate your schools and to just as you have the authority to require certain dress in schools and certain behavior and conduct in schools, and you do it based on standards and guidance that you receive from, or that may exist just in society. And in this case, you've got medical guidance from the State Department that says this is what should happen. The choice to follow that guidance or not follow that guidance is a decision that the board has had before it. And that's a decision you can make based on changing circumstances and whether you think it's time to go a different direction, particularly if you go for some, extended period of time and you get no additional guidance. But I would think and certainly hope that as circumstances change, there'll be updates and guidance, and you can make a decision based on that.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
I'd certainly like to recognize, I would certainly like to recognize the service of Carmen Buchanan and Kim Stewart to our district, and they have, Carmen has been just an absolute treasure at Mill Creek, and I know that the school and the staff and the students and the parents will at least they have some notice that she's going away, and they're going to celebrate her, and then we're gonna reload right there at Mill Creek, and we're gonna do the exact same thing with Miss Kim Stewart at Discovery. She has served the district so well for so many years, and we're gonna miss her, and they're both gonna leave a gap. But I know that this school district's a shining example, and we will garner lots of interest in those two positions. And as Dr. Nichols said, those will be open tomorrow. But I want to heartily congratulate both Miss Buchanan and Miss Stewart on great service, and I hope that they truly enjoy their retirement. Our next school board meeting is October 26th at 5 p.m. We, for the benefit of those in the public that wanted to attend the meeting and the business action items and the staff, we have moved an executive session from the body of the meeting to the end. And this board's going to need to go into executive session. We're going to have discussion of the consideration the board may be willing to offer or accept in connection with a possible real estate transaction, and discussion with legal counsel the options and ramifications of pending litigation or controversies imminently likely to be litigated. We will reconvene after that for a vote, and then we will formally adjourn the meeting. But if there's no further discussion, I would need a motion and a second to move into executive session.
Mr. President, we need, Mr. Sanderson.
Yes, for purposes of the portion of the executive session relating to discussion of pending or imminently likely litigation, I'm required by the statute to give you an oral declaration that the discussion that will be presented in that connection complies with the exception to the Open Meetings Act, and I'm making that oral declaration to you with respect to that.
Thank you, sir. I can have a motion and a second.
So move.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Frere and a second by Ms. Lessman. All those in favor of moving into an executive session, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain? We'll have a 5-minute recess to clear the room, and then we will